We are live now for the NASCAR Betting Preview Show as we break down all three series and the betting action that comes with it for the NASCAR races and the racing action from Homestead-Miami Speedway this week. And it's the NASCAR playoffs. Only 3 races remain in the Cup Series as we crown a champion, and only 3 shows remain in the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. Tune in. It's going to be a fun one, and I can't wait to tell you guys all that's in store with all of the guys and all of the action that we have for you in this one. So get in the chat, get ready, and stay tuned in as it's the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. Welcome into the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. It's everyone's favorite time of the week, and that is for this show. We got a great one in store, and everyone joining us. Thank you guys in the chat. We'll get to the chat. Chat's been going off for a long time now, so appreciate that. You guys are ready. You guys are locked in, and so are we for a great show and a great week of racing at Homestead-Miami. I love ripping the high line, running the fence, everything in between when it comes to that track. But before we get into all that, let's introduce everyone and see how the boys are doing for this week's episode. We got Phil, we got Ryan, who changed his name, but more importantly, a special guest for this week, Mike from Left Turn Betting. Mike, we'll start with you. Thanks for coming on to the show. How you doing? How's it going? How was your race weekend last week? Tell us all about yourself for those out there who may not know about Left Turn Betting out there.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. I was telling you before the show, I'm a big fan of, Phil and in this show too. I was on Phil's show a couple months back, just really glad to be on here. I run Left Turn Betting. It's an Instagram page I started this season. I've been a NASCAR fan my whole life, and finally decided to, kind of inspired by you guys, to throw together my own model and try to pull. I've got kind of a software background, so wanted to kind of draw on that and see what kind of picks I could pull up and try to fill out some small form content that I could put out there on Instagram. And wasn't really expecting people to take a lot of hold to it, but yeah, I've gotten a lot of good engagement, a lot of likes and good feedback, and looking forward to keeping it up and next year. And it's been a great season so far. Last week was fun. I was really heavy into the head-to-heads that I think went pretty well. Some of them went a lot better than I actually expected. I had like Logano in a matchup. I had Suarez in a matchup, and I wasn't expecting them to, win and finish top 5. But it was a great week. So looking forward to keeping some of those riding this week.
Yeah, hell yeah. Great to have you on. Great to hear all that as well. If you guys aren't following Left Turn Betting and Mike over there, be sure to do so now. He's got his @ symbol right there as well. You follow him on Instagram, like you said, and everywhere out there on Twitter, social media, all that too. Phil, were you surprised by everything that happened last week at Las Vegas? Joey Logano gets the win. We saw that happening, but I feel like Christopher Bell, we talked about it, right? We talked about Toyota. The Toyotas were dominant. Tyler Reddick was until he flipped over there. That was a little bit interesting to see. But from your standpoint and having the Toyota manufacturers bet, did you also include Joey Logano in the outright, bet slip there to sort of help that what happened there?
Yeah. So to recap, I was pleasantly surprised, and that's because I've talked about it a bunch on the show, but the way I've been working for most of this year is starting with a manufacturer bet and then putting some insurance plays on there. And Joey was an insurance for us last week. He and Chase were both 16-1. We had both of them for a half unit. And when I was literally cashing the Toyota bet, well into that race. And then when the strategy play came out, I was like, what the hell? Like Suarez. And then all of a sudden it clicked. Like, I have Logano. Let's go. Like, I didn't care if Bell caught him. I was actually rooting against Bell at that point. Whereas for most of that run, I was cheering for Bell to bust ass up there. So I was pleasantly surprised with Logano. It, kind of fell ass backwards into that one, but we had reason to take him. We talked about it on the show last week on this show as well. And it played out. So pleasantly surprised with the way that the strategy unfolded for us there.
Yeah. Joey Logano to me was just like an insane thing that happened because of not the fact that his car was good or anything like that. His crew chief, they're calling him Big Ball Paul out there. New nickname for him and a new nickname for Debbie Downer because Debbie Downer's now dead. Ryan, talk about that. Talk about everything that happened when the race last week and everyone out there. And because to see that Debbie Downer is dead is really exciting. I'm glad with 3 races left now, the positive vibes are flowing strong.
Yeah, man. I'm a big fan of Homestead, so I think this is going to be a fun week. Had a decent DFS week last week. Betting, I only bet Ty Gibbs top 10, hammered it, lost it. I mean, why I ever bet that kid, I'll never understand in a million years. But he can't bring me down because Debbie Downer's dead. So even a bad beard shaving accident can't bring me down. I'm riding high. We're going to Homestead. Let's win some bets.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah, we don't want to talk about the beard because that was something really strong that was going. It was big. It was flowing nicely in the wind, but we'll move forward. I like what you got going on here now, and it's time to look at the playoff picture because although we won last week, Joey Logano, we talked about him on the show. That was great to see. Now let's sort of see where everything stands from playoff picture standpoint now with Joey Logano obviously advancing to the championship 4. That's huge to note, but Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, William Byron, they are what make up right now the rest of the final 4 now, or championship 4 there. But will we see those drivers? I mean, we saw basically last weekend the whole playoff picture be flipped on its head because of Joey Logano getting the win and everything like that. So Denny Hamlin was strong at Homestead-Miami last year. Tyler Reddick, another driver. Ryan Blaney as well. Chase Elliott, one that comes into my mind in this one because he hasn't really showed that much speed compared to these other drivers. Will he be able to take himself out of that hole? Minus 53 right now. So, Phil, let's start with you here in this one. When we look at the playoff picture, is there a certain driver, whether it's odds-wise, right? This is the time we look at it. 3 races to go until 2 races until the championship, 3 races until the season's all over, right? How do we look at the odds championship-wise for you? Is there a certain driver that you have that presents value in this one?
Yeah, so I'll kind of lay it out there with my thought process and let these other guys kind of pick that apart or ride with me. But for Chase, I mean, he's 30-1 on Caesars. I'm waiting on Chase. I think if he's going to get it done, it's going to be next week, and the odds would be longer potentially for him. So I'm just going to take the bet that he's going to be longer with 1 race to go. He's done the walk-off homer before. If you want something on Chase, I would just wait on him. 2 guys, Blaney, 25-1 right now is somebody that I have sprinkled a half unit on because I do think that he has proven like these next 2 races, he's good, equally good at both of these tracks. I think he's sneaky this week. I think he's very good at Martinsville. So he could win a race and then he's in, or if one of these other guys up top struggle, he's someone that could maybe like incrementally through stage points kind of work his way through. So we'll see about that. So Blaney is somebody I'm in on. And then if Reddick, this is it for him. Like if you think Reddick, he's 6-1 to win this race, I would prefer to just take him to win the championship at plus 950 because if you think he's going to win this race, he's in the championship. So I'd rather be sitting on a slip for him at Phoenix, which is a lot longer than what you're going to see him at Phoenix. So that's my thought process with the playoff picture.
I agree there, especially with Ryan Blaney too. And especially I feel like there's some good juju having to come his way, right? Especially as him being such a good teammate, helping Joey Logano. Here's a question I want to pose to you, Phil, before we move on. We'll ask Mike, we'll ask Ryan here what their thoughts are. Do you think Christopher Bell catches Joey Logano if Ryan Blaney doesn't push Joey Logano a couple times like he did to get past Suarez? Because ultimately, I feel like that gave him a good advantage to get past Suarez as quick as he did.
Yeah, no, I think the push helped. I don't think he was blocking. Like they were complaining about blocking, but the push, yeah. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, what the hell is the point of having teammates out there if a guy 35 laps down can't give you a little nudge? So yeah, I think it helped. And, but who's to say what would have happened if he wasn't in that spot?
Yeah, 100%. Mike, we'll turn it to you here. Is there any driver you have your eye on specifically, or do you agree at Phil's point as well? Ryan Blaney 22-1 as well to win the championship right now. Which driver are you looking at in the playoff picture right now?
No, I was pretty, exactly what Phil said about Ryan Blaney. I was looking at him. I saw him on Monday at like 28-1, and he's down to 25 now. I sprinkled a little bit on there at that point, just because of his schedule that he has coming up with these next 3 races. I think if he can work his way into the playoffs, like Phoenix, he's arguably possibly the best driver at Phoenix right now. So that would be 28-1 for a championship at this point is, I think, a good value. I looked back at how he's done at these next 3 tracks, between Phoenix, Martinsville, and Homestead. The past 12 races at those in the next gen, he only has 1 finish outside the top 10, and those other 11 races were all top 5 finishes. So I think that he's just criminally underrated right now. It's a huge hole to get out of at, he's 47 back. I think that Logano really shifted that playoff bubble. If you look at the gap between any 2 drivers right now, the biggest one is the playoff bubble itself. So yeah, I think that Blaney, just based on his schedule, is probably the best value. I think that all these drivers that are outside right now, with maybe the exception of Reddick, just because of Martinsville, I'll talk to. I think that anyone outside has a lot of good tracks coming up. The trouble is, I think everyone that's inside also has a lot of good tracks coming up, and you can't have 8 drivers in the championship 4. I agree with Phil that Reddick this week is kind of a make or break for him, because Martinsville is statistically one of his worst tracks. It's like his 5th or 4th worst average finish in the Cup Series. So to be fair, his best finish at Martinsville came in the past spring race here. So maybe they figured something out. He's the kind of guy that, we saw with the road courses. He really focused and learned on how to be better at a type of track that he was struggling at. But like, good enough just isn't going to be good enough, because like I said, it's a great track for all these other guys too. So that's kind of the 2 sides of it. I think Elliott's got a big hole to get out of. Hamlin, I think, could work his way in. These are 2 good tracks coming up for him, but yeah, it just keeps coming back to, like, these are great tracks for those guys that are in there. So yeah, Blaney's kind of my pick right now, just on the value.
100%. Definitely agree there. And I think it was great, the point that you mentioned too, which, like, it seems interesting because of how many great drivers are in this round of, but you can't have all of them in the championship 4. I think that's a major point, because obviously we know that, but in seeing the board right now, I can't really, you got Denny Hamlin, you got Tyler Reddick, you got Ryan Blaney, past champion Chase Elliott, all below the cut line. Ryan, Debbie Downer, or not Debbie Downer anymore. We'll call you Debbie Upper now, I guess, because it's dead. But what are you thinking? I feel like all of us will probably have the same mindset going into this one. So which driver, if that is the case, which driver within the top 4 right now do you think has the best chance to stay there out of Christopher Bell, Kyle Larson, William Byron?
Well, I mean, Bell's, in second right now, and he's great here. I mean, Larson is obviously the favorite this week for great reason, but Bell and Larson, I think, should be safe. One thing I did notice on Caesars is that they had Chevy as the winning manufacturer for the championship at 135 and Hendricks at 125. So it makes no sense. You just take Chevy, and what if Elliott wins at Martinsville and is in? So that you could have 3. I mean, it would take some stuff to happen to Bell and Larson to get knocked out of there, but I guess there's still an outside chance, although a very far outside chance, that all 3 Hendricks guys get into the championship. That just caught my eye. So I just was trying to find something that was maybe a little different than the obvious, like Blaney, Hamlin, or Elliott dart throws. But yeah, that caught me. And Toyota too, if you didn't think, Reddick. I mean, Reddick's going to be strong here, but again, like, I'm not a big fan of him next week. And then at Phoenix, I think the Toyota Chris Bell camp is going to be way faster. Just my own opinion, just based on last time. So I don't know. I still like betting Bell. I think Bell's going to be strong this week. Be strong at Martinsville, strong at Phoenix. So I don't even mind Bell's number right now where it is.
Yeah, 100%. And chat, let us know what you're thinking as well. To recap all of the championship odds as they stand. This is on DraftKings, so there is better odds out there, but I just got DraftKings pulled up for me here. Obviously, shop around. But Kyle Larson's around 3-1. Joey Logano, same price. That's crazy too, Joey Logano, because we were talking last week. Joey Logano, the value he had 12-1, around there, maybe a little bit higher. Now he's down to 3-1, which makes sense because he's the only driver locked in, but still crazy to see the jump there and closing line value with that. Christopher Bell plus 330, William Byron plus 400, and obviously those are the top four guys right now. Tyler Reddick 10-1, Denny Hamlin 14-1, Blaney 22-1, and Chase Elliott 28-1. Chat, let us know who you think is your favorite. And we got to get to the chat as well. Sorry, missed you guys after the first segment. So let's highlight everyone. Kush jumping in here early at 7 p.m. So appreciate that. An hour early. Kush was locked and loaded from his seat, ready to go. Marcus is back. Appreciate you tuning in, Marcus. And I wonder who he's going to pick to win Homestead this weekend. It's going to be none other than Christopher Bell. If you guys, let's see what he said. We'll win this weekend at Homestead to get redemption after dominating Las Vegas. Yeah, led 155 out of 267. I hope he does, honestly, because he deserved to win at Las Vegas, Marcus, and I hope he pulls it out for you as well. Brian saying, talking to Marcus there, thinking he's got a better chance at Martinsville. I don't know. He was pretty good at Homestead last year. Landis thinking Byron. Marcus talking to Phil as well. Kush out there. Brian in the chat. Appreciate you guys. Hot Pass is back. Yep, there it is. I know he's going to have something for Ryan, and he does right off the bat. Travis saying, believe it or not, Dinger Week. Okay. And honestly, that's a big one. That's a big one. A lot of value out there for Dinger too. So appreciate you guys and all the comments. Jacob tuning in. Awesome to see Left Turn Betting on the show. That is true. We're happy to have him here. Appreciate everyone. Big Ross as well, talking about Blaney. Blaney going to get a little more attention too now that Logano is through. Definitely agree there. And I do have to say, sticking with that note, if Logano is in a position to help Ryan Blaney, whatever that may be, give him a spot, right? Push him if he needs a push past someone. He better do it, because this is 2 races now. Atlanta, Blaney helped Logano, and obviously last weekend. So Big Ross, I'm with you there. And Logano kind of owes one towards Blaney. So appreciate all the comments. Hot Pass again, asking Ryan what he's drinking out of. So last week was wine, right, Ryan?
Yeah, this is even better. This is a Pioneer Woman fall mug, and I'm drinking hot chocolate.
Wow.
Just getting his fall on right now.
Yeah, I'm like 6 years old.
Hot chocolate in honor of Hot Pass. There you go. Austin Dillon week as well. That is one I'm super excited about because I got a little Austin Dillon action too. So rapid fire questions for you guys now as we continue to move forward. Appreciate the chat as well. Keep the comments coming. First rapid fire question is going to be for Mike here. Mike, and this is going to be keep it simple. Keep it simple. We're ripping the high line. We're riding the fence. However you like to call it here at Homestead. That's how you get the most speed. Who is the best driver that runs the high line or rips the fence, in your opinion, right now in the NASCAR Cup Series?
I mean, I think the easy answer is Larson. That move that he did earlier for that photo finish in the season, like watching that race where he drove it in and I was like, he's going to wreck, but just stuck it in there. That really showed to me how good he is at this, but he can be a little checkers or wreckers with it. That move, case in point. So I think if you're going to pick who's the best at riding the high line, Larson's a pretty good answer there. I think that's hard to argue with.
Definitely agree. All right, so Ryan now. I went with Phil early on last, so you get a little last place here. Ryan, you can't say Larson. Who's next up in your opinion in terms of riding the high line in the NASCAR Cup Series right now?
Reddick, if he can make a little better move than he did last week. So, I mean, he was flying up there. And he's known for it. He's done it here many times. So, yeah, I would think Reddick's second in line.
All right, there we go. So, Phil, limited options now. I feel like those were the top 2 dogs. Who are you drafting with the 3rd pick?
With the 3rd pick in the Highline draft. No, I can't speak to exactly. I just go off of speed right now. Just green flag speed on high tire wear tracks in the last 2 years. William Byron's right there. So I don't know if he's necessarily ripping the fence, but he's been fast on these style tracks. So I will kind of throw a little bit of a bullshit answer out there because I'm not 100% sure if he is ripping the fence like you're asking, but he's been fast on these tracks.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's the same type of mentality. If he doesn't rip the high line, then even more power to him with him being that fast, because then, how he's got to get the speed, more speed going low, whatever the case may be there. To me, I'm going to go with an underdog pick. Maybe no one's really thinking this. Noah Gragson. Noah Gregson's really nice at ripping the fence, I feel like. We saw him in the Xfinity Series dominate these types of racetracks. I'm not saying he's going to go out and win or anything, but if I were to have a thought in my mind about a driver that could excel at this type of racetrack because of the high line factor, it would be him. And that, Chase Briscoe's up there too. We see Ross Chastain be good at it. Maybe a little Denny Hamlin action, but I feel like that'll do it for the rider fade or rapid fire because it's time for the rider fade. I always do that, but I'm really excited for this one because we got a little something special, and I'm going to talk about it now here. Last week, we had the dice. We rolled the dice. We did a little parlay action, and that was all up to chance. That was all whatever the dice had to choose for us there for Las Vegas, and it was looking great. We had Tyler Reddick, a couple other guys there. One was Joey Logano, William Byron, if I'm remembering correctly. Yep. So that was all going well until Tyler Reddick decided to do a little flip over there, and it ruined the parlay. But ultimately, it was fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed it in the chat as well, because we're going to bring it back, except no dice. And at the end of this rider fade segment, we're going to have a parlay built for you guys here. 4 legs. Each one of us going to put it together, maybe based off of our rider fade, head-to-head matchups. Tune in, find out. Phil, who do you got to kick us off here? We'll talk about the parlay at the end. Right now, we can sort of just get into the head-to-head matchups, the rider fades that you have presented for us in this one.
Yeah, so I think this will be my nominee for the parlay because it is on Caesars. We're using Caesars for this, unless I pull a last-minute move and switch to the trucks. But a lot of chat right now in the chat about 83 and Austin Dillon. So I'm going to go right to him. And I was thinking about taking him, later, or talking about him later for the position props because, 6-1 for a top 10 was very feisty. But I just need him to beat one guy for our parlay. And the guy that he's up against is Noah Gragson. And I know you just talked about him, his prowess in the Xfinity Series and being able to run the high line. But let me just talk through this here. Austin Dillon, he is not the guy you think of when you go to this racetrack, but it seems like a lot of us degenerates are on Austin Dillon this week because he's popping off the page when you're looking at his stats here. 4 of the last 5 races at Homestead-Miami Speedway, top 10 finishes. If you take out AJ Allmendinger, who I also saw in the chat, who's only ran twice in the last 5 races, Austin Dillon has the best average finish, and these are not fluky finishes. His speed has been there. If you look at the next gen era, he's got a 4th place and a 10th place. His driver rating is top 10. Like, he's not just lucking into this stuff. He's actually like going out there and performing well. I guess RCR has something figured out. So that is, good enough for me to say, hey, 6-1 top 10. But if I could just beat one driver, who's he matched up against? I actually said to myself, they're not going to give me someone to play against Austin Dillon on the books. And sure enough, they did. And that happens to be Noah Gragson. Now, he was minus 115 apiece yesterday. Now it's slightly moved in his favor, minus 120 for Dillon. And I'm fine with that because on other books, he's like minus 130, minus 135. So I'm happy with this. This is an 8-spot difference on Ryan's website, Win the Race, on his pre-rank race rankings. So that typically gives us some better value in the favor of the guy we're looking for. And this is a racetrack that is very difficult for younger drivers. And Gragson, he's been around the block in the lower series. He's ran 1 race here so far, 25th place finish. It takes a little bit to figure out. And he's been in all different equipment. What is even going on with Stewart-Haas Racing at this point in the season? I saw Brian say, they're already selling their parts at their shop. So I feel like this is a perfect situation. You got a veteran who's been proven to be consistent versus kind of a, who the hell knows what we're going to get from the 10 car. So I really like the situation here in this matchup. And that's why I'm saying it'd probably be my nominee, but it's the first one I'm going here for Ride and Fade.
Love it. Hey, I know I'm riding, and I need to elaborate on why. Big Ross, I'll tell you what, last week, I actually did talk to Austin Dillon. Quick little shout out. I posted it on my Twitter. If you guys didn't see that interview, tune in there. I talked to Austin Dillon. He said that Homestead-Miami is his favorite racetrack. He literally said that, and no wonder why. It's one of his best. So if you didn't see that there, you can tune in at Timo Patino. But I just wanted to say, Austin Dillon, per sources, which is me, said that he loves Homestead-Miami. So that is all I need to ride, because if he has his confidence up, if he's excited to go to this racetrack, then I am too. I'll post another shorter clip of him specifically saying that for the boys out there later this week, but Austin Dillon is locked and loaded for this one, and that's why I am. I know I'm a sick man, but I'm riding with Phil and AD3 in this one. Ryan, first off, what does Win the Race have to say? Anything else, rather, more data on Austin Dillon, if there is some. Are you riding with that? And who do you have for a rider fade yourself?
Yeah, I will ride with that. I got to trust my own rankings. I mean, Phil's looking at him. I appreciate that always. And I put a lot of time into him. So I do have quite the gap there. But when you look a little closer at it, it is really just like the car versus the history here, the experience at Homestead. And earlier in the season, I would have said, yeah, Gregson's car is so much better. Plus, we don't really mind how he is at Homestead. He could go out there and beat Dillon. But where they're at right now, where Stuart Haas is right now, they're putting some pretty slow cars out on the track. So, yeah, because of my own rankings, obviously, and, everything Phil said, let's go with Austin Dillon there. He did. So I did see him when he was walking into Bristol. He pissed me off because the fans were asking him to sign a hat, and almost every driver did, except for Austin Dillon. So that one made me a little upset with him. But for mine, I'm going to jump to Xfinity. I didn't have a head-to-head I liked really for Cup enough to mention it here. I do like the one we just talked about, but I'm going to throw that in the parlay, and I'm going to go with Cole Custer over Eric Almirola. It's minus 115. I just don't think this should be even. I think Custer is a clear favorite. I think the books agree with that. He's ahead of Almirola in everything except for this head-to-head. So that should tell you something. You start kind of digging into it, and Stuart Haas has given him a race-winning car in like 4 straight Homestead races. That dates back to 2017 because it took some years off here. But he's led 182, 95, 15, and 114 laps in those races, finishing first, second, and then he finished stage 1 in first, stage 2 and third, had an issue, finished 13th in his last time out here. But I think you're looking at someone too. So Riley Herbst, he finished second in the last Homestead race. So Stuart Haas is just putting out fast cars at this Homestead track. When Almirola goes to Xfinity and dominates, it's kind of predictable. It's always on like those short, flat tracks that we know he was good at in Cup, and we know he can just run a really great race. I don't really see that here for Homestead. It was not like anyone was ever scared of Almirola at Homestead in the Cup Series. I know he'll have a fast car, but I just think Custer's will be much faster, and I think he's better here. So give me Custer for this matchup.
Okay. A little Cole Custer. I like it. Cole Custer, AD3. Now, Mike, are you going to ride with that? And what are you thinking in terms of your own head-to-head matchup you'd like to present to the crew in this one?
Yeah, Phil just stole mine. I am riding the Chili Dilly train. I think everyone is really excited about Dillon this weekend. I think he's the best value. I have another pick too that's not involving Dillon, but to pile on a little bit, Homestead is actually his best track by average finish, despite being his 15th best track by average start. So there might be a play there to wait until maybe after qualifying, but I think that alone shows that he's able to work his way through the field here and get to those good finishes.
That's a good DFS nugget too.
Yeah. So if you like that Dillon and who was it, Gregson matchup, there's also a group bet that I saw on ESPN that's a little longer for Dillon plus 225 over Gregson, Barry, and Jones, which I think if you're really riding Dillon, you could get a little bit more if you're feeling a little, a little spicy. But to go with someone totally separate to throw into the parlay, I saw this matchup on this was ESPN, so I guess it doesn't work for us.
I'll throw it out there anyway.
Yeah. The one that I'll throw out anyway was Keselowski over Bowman. minus 125 for Keselowski. They finish about the same place here. Average driver rating, though, over the past 4 races, Keselowski's 8th and Bowman is 17th. And average running position over past 4 races, just going a little past next gen to get a little more data, is Keselowski's got 8.5 average running. Bowman is running around 15th. So that's an interesting pick to me. I think that Keselowski is a good one. If we want another Caesars bet quick, I saw Suarez over Briscoe, and that was actually one of my picks last week that cashed pretty easily. Briscoe, he was holes like Swiss cheese. We call him Swissco. He fell back pretty quick. There was a little bit, I think, during a pit cycle where they were kind of close together. I mean, Suarez kind of ended up way further ahead than I expected, I think, just kind of from pit cycle strategy. But I think that you could ride that again this week. The past 4 races just this season, Suarez is 4-0 over Briscoe. They're running pretty close, but to everything that people are saying about SHR, I think that there's some advantage there to take. So I'd throw that one into the parlay. But yeah, anything, Dylan, that you can find, I'm sure we'll be talking about him a little bit more tonight too.
If you're going to parlay, it's always good to have some correlation. So there is the correlation there of fading Stewart Haas.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Good point.
Love it there. Now, Big Ross also saying, this is a NASCAR D-Gen show when we're talking Austin Dillon, Cole Custer, Chase Briscoe fades at Homestead. It's just fact. And this is the NASCAR Betting Preview Show where you can get all of that info. And the people that maybe some guys aren't talking about, we got to dive in for. So appreciate that, Big Ross. And we embrace that. We love that here because I love you guys in the chat talking about it too. Keep that coming. And, we're going to keep talking about them as well. We'll go back around as I'm trying to think about my parlay pick in this one too. Phil, do you have any other head-to-head matchups that you like in this one?
Yeah, I'll throw one out there. Just because I'm trying to think. I mean, actually, I like a lot of head-to-heads, but I'll take one more, and I'm just kind of choosing who I'm going to roll with here. Throwing this one out there because I kind of want to get the vibes from the boys here. ESPN yesterday, I need to double-check what it is right now, but I assume it didn't move. Truex was an underdog versus Chase Elliott. Truex was minus 110. This was on ESPN Bet. And this, again, was a large difference on win the race. So that always gets my attention, get the antennas up. The question is, can we trust Truex? Last week, track, where going into it, Truex has been historically good at. What did he do? He ran a Truex type of race. He wrecked a couple guys and then finished 6th. So, that is indicative to me of saying, like, okay, he's able to get a good finish late in this season. Like, the conversations we've had in the past on the show where it's like, is he just completely throwing in the towel? He finished top 10 last week. And I think a top 10 this week, again, could win this because it's a similar situation. It's a racetrack where he's been very good in the past. He's got the second best starting position, has not in the last 5 races here, has not started outside the top 12 at this racetrack, and that's huge. 60% of the winners here start inside the top 5. So it's just very important to start well at this track, and he clearly does that. He's 5th in average finish in those races. 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s, 4 for 5, finishing inside the top 15. Again, lowering the bar a little bit, top 15s, but in a head-to-head matchup, I think that matters. He's 2nd in driver rating. So I know this year has been wonky for him, and I've been down on him on the show, but going up against Chase Elliott, I just see an advantage here because Chase is good here. He's just not great. Like he's good enough. And that's why I said at the beginning of the show, I'm skipping over Chase for a championship pick. I'm waiting until next week because I'm anticipating Chase running 14th. And I think Truex is going to be better than that. Next gen speed at this racetrack, Truex is 2nd behind Larson alone. Larson's 1st and 1st. So tough to beat that, but Truex is 2nd. Chase, for comparison, is 10th overall. They're 3 and 2 at Homestead, head-to-head against each other. But what I said on my podcast this week was the differential in the wins were like when Chase won, it was a close battle. When Truex won, it was a blowout. So this was a couple spots away from being 5-0. So Truex versus Chase in an underdog minus 110 roll. I really liked this on ESPN. So just throwing it out there to see if anybody hates it.
Yeah, I actually saw that same one. I saw the one on ESPN, and then I saw on Caesars Truex was the favorite. So if you need a little bit more motivation, the Caesars bookies are feeling what Phil's feeling.
Hey, we know Big Ross likes it too. You had me at Truex, he said there for Phil, and I'm sold too. You know what, Phil? I'm gonna take it from you. That's gonna be the one that I throw in the parlay on the Caesars version for Martin Truex Jr. over Chase Elliott there. So like that there. Big Ross likes it too. Brian likes it because it's very high on Ryan's ranks for win the race. Ryan, good to hear that. Is there anyone else that's high on your ranks for a head-to-head matchup for Ride or Fade in this segment here that you guys got on win the race there?
No, but I think that this is a perfect segue into our next segment if you want me to lead it off.
Take it away, brother.
All right. So we're going to talk about Martin Truex Jr. for a top 10. He's like minus 115 on Fanatics. I don't know why it's dropping to that number. It was minus 125 when it opened. He's like minus 150, minus 170 in books. Lifetime at Homestead, 19 races. His number for top 10 would be minus 170. That's where we're at. He's unreal good here. In my pre-practice and qualifying ranks, he's third. If you look at 2024 Kansas, Vegas, Darlington, Charlotte, is fourth best in true average running position. One thing I did notice last year is that 4 of the top 5 in my true performance ranks were top 5 next week at Homestead. So if you look at Truex last week, he was top 5 in my true performance ranks at Vegas. So that would translate over to a strong race this week if that sticks. This year has not been a great year for correlation, but hopefully, that is something there. If we look just at Homestead, he qualified in the pole here last year. Unfortunately, that engine failed during the race. In 2022, I had him as the second best car in the race to Kyle Larson. In 2021, he led laps, finished third. In 2020, he didn't finish top 10, but that was a weird race. You remember the rain caution, and I think that one's forgivable in his resume here. In 2019, he led over 100 laps, finished second. The 2 races before that with Furniture Row, he finished second and first. His first place being in 2017 when he won the championship at Homestead. And just for a fun part of this bet, he's running that same scheme from when he won the championship at Homestead in 2017, that same Bass Pro scheme. So I don't know one bad thing about Martin Truex at Homestead. I understand all the stuff like, oh, his head's not in it, whatever. I don't know. I still think he wants to win a race before he's out of here, and this is probably his best shot to do it. So, yeah, give me Martin Truex Jr., and I'm going to be talking about him again later, too.
Wow. Okay. I love the MTJ hype because I feel like, yes, people were thinking his head's not in it, right? And maybe deservedly so with how they fared in the playoffs and throughout this whole season, really. But if anything, we can all, besides all those stats, with all those stats, rather, a 6th place finish at Las Vegas, right? Like the 19 car, if they're going to have some positive runs low key, I feel like it's going to be within these next 3 weeks. He is a champion. He's MTJ. And at Homestead, we cannot ignore him to that exact point.
He's known everywhere, too, to excel at the high tire wear tracks. I mean, this plays into so many of his hands. Like, he's just, I don't know. I could be dead wrong, and if I am, that's fine. I'll be one last lost bet on Martin before he leaves. But I am heavy on this top 10 bet.
Let's go. Hey, well, I'll tell you what. Hot Pass says, well, he agrees with you, and that is very rare. That is very rare from Eric there.
So, hey, Debbie's way up.
Debbie way up now, way up, way high on Martin Truex Jr. This is a big Ross week too. He's lock and step with win the race. And going off something that Martin Truex Jr. is also in, it is the parlay. We got to kind of shout that out one final time here before continuing on in the position prop segment, because after everything we all talked about, this is what it's going to come out to be on Caesars Sportsbook. A 4-leg parlay made by all of us right now on the NASCAR Betting Preview Show. And this is what it's going to be, folks. Austin Dillon over Noah Gragson. He is minus 120 to do so. Cole Custer over Eric Almirola at minus 115. Daniel Suarez over Chase Briscoe at minus 130. And then Martin Truex Jr., the man of the hour, over Chase Elliott. All of that combines to be plus 992. I mean, that's value. That's the NASCAR Betting Preview Show parlay, and I love it. Let us know in the chat if you guys like it too. But Phil smiling, Mike shaking his head. Yes, Debbie Downer is up. I mean, I'm hyped right now because of that. So let's go, boys. Once again, we got all those guys plus 992. Austin Dillon, Cole Custer, Daniel Suarez, and Martin Truex Jr. That's going to be this week's NASCAR Betting Preview Show parlay. We'll put a picture up, a little clip out there as well on socials for you guys to remind you guys. But once again, I'm super excited about that one. MTJ's on it. He's the man of the hour. We're talking about him for some position props. So let's get back into that segment. Mike, what are you thinking here? Which markets do you see the best? Top 10s, top 5s, top 3s, or anything else rather that you want to open up here for some position props in this one?
Yeah, I always like to look at the top 10s first. And I don't know how I pass up this incredible value on FanDuel of Larson at a top 10 at minus 1,000. That's just an incredible. I don't know if you're talking about degenerate betting, throw $1,000 on that.
He'll hit the barriers again. He'll hit the sand. He'll hit the sand.
Yeah.
Like last year.
But no, I mean, we've talked about Dylan a whole bunch. There's a ton of great numbers on him. I saw him plus 200 ESPN, 350 on Caesars. Hamlin is one that I saw some pretty good numbers for, and he's got a good chance here. He was plus 145 on FanDuel and plus 150 on Caesars they had a boost for him. So I think I grabbed a little bit of that. Dinger, AJ Allmendinger, people mentioned him in the past 2 races. He has the best average finish here, like 4th, got 2 top 5s. Kozlowski, I mentioned him in one of the matchups. He's minus 120 on FanDuel for a top 10. Stop me. I don't want to use up everyone's if I'm naming other people's picks.
Hey, let them rip. I mean, that's what it's all about here.
Yeah, and then there were a couple good combinations of these on Caesars. Has like the both top 10s. Bell and Hamlin minus 130, Reddick and Blaney for a top 10 minus 130. In that range, that those of some pretty good guys, I think that you got some good value on any of those. FanDuel specials of some wins that you could look at a Denny win and a Bubba top 10 was 26 to 1. So Bubba's not horrible here. He's been running okay recently. He could pull something out. A Larson win, a Hamlin top 3, and a Logano top 10 for 30 to 1.
I get in on that.
They're a little degenerate. The biggest one that I saw was a Hamlin win, a Byron top 3, and a Bowman top 10 for 95 to 1. So Bowman, like I said, I'm fading him in that other matchup. But if you like him and you want to get Hamlin and Byron together, top 3s I don't think are a great value. But if you're going for almost 100 to 1, why not throw a dime on it, right? I think that there's a lot of good picks out there, and that FanDuel had also a Kozlowski and Bowman top 10, so that was the matchup. If you can't pick between them, you think they're both going to run good, it's plus 420 to get both of those guys in the top 10. So I think the markets out there are pretty good this week. The top 5s were pretty interesting too. Like I mentioned, the Hamlin one. There's some good Blaney numbers, Byron numbers. I think that there's a lot out there for these top guys that you don't really see a lot of.
Definitely. And especially you mentioned Brad Keselowski too, right? I see some talk about him in the chat as well. Finished 5th here last year. Also, I want to go through, with that being said, just some of the top finishers in this race last season in 2022 there, because 2022, we had Kyle Larson, Ross Chastain, AJ Allmendinger, Austin Dillon, and then Brad Keselowski finishing in 5th. I just thought that was interesting to note because those are the guys we've been talking about. Those are the guys that present us with value, and they all finish inside the top 5. I mean, obviously, except for Kyle Larson, maybe Ross Chastain doesn't have too much, but we're looking at the Dinger, we're looking at Austin Dillon and Brad Keselowski. MTJ finished in 6th as well. So I like the odds of what's coming in for these drivers there because of how they finish here in the past. Phil, what are you thinking about any position props in this one? We got a lot out there, and I love it. So let's keep it going here.
Yeah, no, that was great to see Mike Cook there. I'm going to just mention one other guy just because of the thought process around it. It's a top 5. I'm usually a little hesitant to play top 5s, more conservative. I usually like to play the top 10s, but looking at Tyler Reddick, he was plus 100 on MGM. That's now minus 115. He's now plus 100 on Bet Rivers. And if you have access to Bet365, he's plus 125. And in PA, I do have that, so I'm taking that. But even at plus 100 for Bet Rivers, which is more available to folks, I think. The thought process that I have here is we talked about him earlier. This is his shot, going for it. The thing that's going to fuck him up is if he just grips the wheel too tight and, puts it into the wall, and then there you go. Does something stupid like last week, that's going to kill him. But he runs this track well. 3 top 4s in 4 races here. Like, he will, all things considered, have the speed, have the ability to run up front. And in a situation where he's going for it, right? I want to have a little something on him if he comes up just short. You know what I'm saying? So to get some plus money on a guy that I think a lot of people think are in a situation where it's winning in or throwing all their eggs in this basket, I like to have a little bit of cushion and some insurance here. If he comes up just a little bit short where he's dejected, I'll be celebrating. So plus 125, plus 100 on Bet Rivers for Tyler Reddick.
Love it. And I think the biggest thing with Tyler Reddick is, like you said, and we all really know, this is his shot. He needs to do it. I get a little concerned at times with Tyler Reddick that he is, in the Kyle Larson aspect, a little over aggressive, right? We saw it last week and exactly to that point. But I think that makes me even more in on him this week based on what happened last week. Because of if he was too aggressive, then he learns from his mistakes. He can then use that hopefully to his advantage this weekend at Homestead, one of his best tracks, like we all talked about. I think another thing too is he's proven this season. Last year, I feel like maybe he kept coming up short and he wasn't real. He didn't have as much confidence as he may have this season. Regular season champ, made it this far, won races by dominating fashion. This could be his time to go out and win one, especially we see Michael Jordan at the track too, clutch moments. I'm in on Tyler Reddick from that aspect. One driver that I'll touch on before we move on to the outright winner bets. Mike alluded to him too, is Bubba Wallace, plus 140 on Bet Rivers, I see for a top 10. I just love the momentum behind that team right now. I feel like he just keeps on getting top 10 finishes or having strong runs. So a little bit out there for Bubba Wallace at plus 140. I'll take that for a top 10 in this one, but let's continue on to some outright winner plays. This is the moment you guys have all been waiting for. In the chat, let us know who you guys are picking to win this race outright. Who's your favorite plays? Mike, you're our special guest for this week. You get to go first. Tell us who's going to win this race at Homestead-Miami.
Yeah, well, I always have such a hard time picking out a single guy. I really love Phil's strategy of looking at the manufacturers and then working it out from there. But this week I saw something interesting. I mean, I'll throw out a name too if you want, but I want to start out by talking about the over under for car number to win.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting. It's at 16.5 as the number. Under is the favorite at minus 130. Over was plus 100. And just looking at the breakdown of what you get in the over, you get Byron, Truex, Reddick, Bell at plus 100. And, you can keep going down the list, Logano, Bubba. But the under was pretty tempting too with Larson, Blaney. That's kind of where the list, Hamlin. That's kind of where my list ends. So I really honestly think that the over here, over 16.5 with who you're getting, just those four guys right off the bat are like at the top of my models chart. Byron, Truex, Reddick, Bell. So I think that's a pretty good list to start with for an underdog. And even, the minus 130 for the under isn't bad, but I'm going to go with the over on that. And then you can hedge with someone like Blaney, who I think I saw at 10-1 on Caesars. I think he would be my pick to hedge that under bet with.
I like
surprised
that.
I'm surprised the over is the worst number when you got the 66 running in the race. Thought that might juice it up a little bit. You should be ripping the top, 14 laps down.
Yeah, that's what the car does, right? Though, and what was the number again? You mentioned, was it 16.5?
Yeah, 16.5.
I'm gonna write that down because I like that one, especially with the drivers you're getting with that, right? Too love that there, Phil. So I think this was perfect because you mentioned Phil's everyone tuning in should know Phil's strategy, but Phil, if they don't, give them a little breakdown about what you do each and every week in terms of how you bet these outright winners. You mentioned at the top of the show too, but give them a breakdown for this week about how you're going to go about that.
Yeah, it's very similar to last week. So you're taking the best manufacturer odds that you think based on the stats. Right now, Chevy's it's almost exactly like last week because you got Larson bringing down the odds, the outright odds, bringing down the manufacturer odds, head-to-head odds. Like the books love Larson. And so for that reason, I got to go with Toyota again. They're plus 155 this week is what I got them at. And what you want to do is just make sure unit allocation is correct. I'm throwing multiple units on Toyota and then sprinkling some. Blaney was one of the guys that I was using to play defense against the Toyota pick. But it's the same conversation that we had last week. The guys in the Toyota camp are all jumbled together towards the top of the board. So if you're not taking Larson, because to take him 3-1 would be silly midweek, then who else are you going to take? Well, it's likely a Toyota. And, I know you could probably get Truex at a really large number, like I saw in the chat there, but still, I like having all of those guys jumbled up together because you don't know who's going to be good midweek. So they are all so strong. I mean, and they all kind of jump out depending on what metric you're looking at. I mean, you can even get into the Bubba Wallaces and the Ty Gibbs because they've been strong on the high tire wear tracks the last 2 years. So it depends on what metric you want to slice it up. Toyota has more of a collective group to roll with. So that's who I'm going with this week. And Blaney was one of the guys we were playing defense with.
Nice. Love it. And hey, it worked last week. So and it's been working all season too. I'll give you that. It's been working all year long. Yeah. So if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Keep making money too with it. All right, Ryan, Debbie Upper, what are we thinking from your standpoint? Who's win the race saying? And there was a little, I feel like you alluded to one driver that could be in this segment here for you. Who do you got?
Well, I like Phil's strategy. I mean, in my ranks, I have them ranked like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So just all kind of right there behind Larson and Byron. But Byron lately, like he's been fast, but I don't think he's been like race winning fast. Where like even in my own ranks, I'd probably bump Bell up because Bell's been fast, like race winning fast. And the other crazy thing too is I did an 18 race sample of similar enough tracks to Homestead and included Homestead, the qualifying. And that goes with last week too. Bell won his 7th pole out of those 18 races. So, I mean, I would expect him to be starting up front. Overall, the best qualifier on that is Reddick. So again, your Toyota. So yeah, I expect him to be up front, be fast. I think the best number, if you're going to take one right now, and this can be my value bet of the night too, would be the 20-1 on Truex to win. We have it fair between 13 and 14. I named all of those stats earlier about how awesome and dominant he's been here at Homestead at times. So yeah, I don't know. It's so nerve-wracking going so hard on Truex, but I just kind of have a feeling. And I mean, it's not like the numbers don't back it up too. The only thing you could say is maybe his head's out of it, but I think he wants to win. I think it'd be a great story. So rooting for MTJ.
I love it. The numbers are saying it too. And something I'm saying, and what Phil's saying too in the chat, is that we're loving Cody's degenerate parlay here for the outright winners. Got to shout that out. So Cody said he has Majeski, Custer, and Blaney at enormous odds as well. So love that there. Phil mentioned it. He's blind telling it. I am too. Love what you got there, Cody. Appreciate that.
I had Majeski just edged out Heim in my ranks too. So I was surprised to see that. So that 7-1 or whatever Majeski is on some sites, that one popped out to me early as well.
Kyle in on it too. Love that things are going along smoothly. Oh no. Almost.
We hit a road bump.
we hit a robot there. And then also we got Kyle saying Truex ain't winning anything but first car out. Maybe this is good. Maybe I don't like everyone on all of our picks here and all of our plays. So it's good to have a little bit of diversity from that standpoint there. Good to have a little objectivity. So good to have some guys going against us.
I do like when a driver wins and like half of NASCAR fans' heads explode. And I think that will happen if Truex wins. So it'll just be a fun night on X and reading all the stories and stuff.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that with Joey Logano too. A lot of people were going crazy that because he has one of the worst average finishes of all in the season, and now he's in the championship 4, and it's an even year, so even year Logano is going to potentially win again. So could we see that? I think with this season, we can how it's been, the excitement factor, the storylines, we could see another thing like that happen. Ryan, I want to ask you, if someone out there wanted to play an outright winner of Christopher Bell or Tyler Reddick, I think we kind of asked the same thing last week at Vegas. Which one is the data saying, which driver is saying has the advantage there between those two at this track specifically? Because although we know Phil's strategy of the outright manufacturers and everything like that, and then putting the little defenders out there like Blaney or last week with Logano is maybe one of our favorite plays or strategies to use, maybe someone's out there sticking specifically on an outright winner or betting a specific driver. Those two to me, I feel like are going to get a lot of noise this week with it being Reddick and Bell, them both being great at running the high line. So over at Win the Race, who are they saying is better at this specific track for this weekend? Tyler Reddick or Christopher Bell?
It'd be Reddick, and it's very, very close. But if I had to just pick one right now, I don't know. I'd probably pick Reddick. It's really close. But I love his history here. Bell was great here last year, obviously, and got the win. But I think Reddick just consistently has shown he can be a top 3 car at Homestead. So I have to go with Reddick.
All right. Hey, good to know. Also, Hot Pass saying Seabell had a horrible car last year until the cautions went his way. That is true. Cautions did go Christopher Bell's way tremendously last year. I felt like in that race. So he's going Reddick in this one as well. All right. Good to have you. Good to have you with us there. Back with us. Hot Pass is back with us. And Brian saying Reddick's desperation greater than Bell on strat. I also agree with that because I feel, but at the same time, Christopher Bell has been fast these past few weeks, and he's also pissed off, I feel like, because he knows he should have won at Vegas. So keep that in mind. Let's be aware of that. And then I do have to go back to what Eric said earlier because we're talking outright winners, and there is one we have to just mention as we've alluded to him, Austin Dillon, 150-1. That to me is one where I'll throw a little bit on that. I'll throw like a little sprinkle on Austin Dillon. He's surprised us before, won at Richmond, 150-1. I don't really want to miss out on any potential AD3 action if he does surprise us all in this one. All right, boys, now it's time to get into some of the best values. It could be Xfinity, it could be trucks, it could be Cup, it could be anything else you guys want to talk about, NASCAR related or not. I guess we've never done that before, but let's get into it all in terms of the best values. Mike, what are you thinking about your best value pick or play for anything if you got one for this weekend's racing action?
Yeah, I mean, not to sound like a broken record, but trying to come up with the best values for this, the only guy that kept standing out to me was Austin Dillon, and we talked about him all night. And it's not just like, I don't think a single pick for him is the best value. What's the value here is that whatever your risk tolerance is or however high you are on him, you can take him outright at 150-1. You could take him, for a top 5 or a top 10. He's in matchups, he's in groups. There's so much for him for a guy who we are literally at his best track this week. I don't think that can be overstated enough. So I was going to try to come up with some other people that seemed like a value too, but I just really think it would like devalue the value of Dillon here. So he's my value pick this week.
Oh, there you go. I love it. If that's the value play, if that is the best value play, it is. Yeah, that is what it is. AD3. And I love that it's his time. I love that he's excited about this track. And I love that we're backing him in this one. Phil, what do you think for yourself? Any best values, any truck plays in this one?
Well, I can tell you that I am literally hopping off this stream and jumping onto another stream to film the truck pod with Derek right after this. So we're going to be talking about a lot of these guys we're saying. I need to do a little bit more digging on the fly to put my name behind anything, but I do like a lot of the names that we're throwing out there. Caden Honeycutt is one that always interests me. I had a matchup against Sawalich on a different book. I see Bryant throwing that out there that I'll be looking to talk about. So trucks, I got to tease that one just because I want to do a little bit more digging into that before we talk fully about it. And I'll be quick here because I know we're at time, but the value pick, same thing as last week, little worse odds for us, but it was a head-to-head matchup with William Byron against Kyle Larson. And last week we talked about it. It was plus 150 and it worked. This week it's plus 115 on Caesars. This is a similar situation to me. I mean, what we found out last week was no matter what the books are telling us, Kyle Larson is not a world beater. Is it scary to fade him? Yes, because he's had the fastest car here 2 years in a row. Of course. But if you're looking for a value pick, William Byron is right there. He's right there. And as a matter of fact, he's beaten Kyle Larson head to head at this track 3 of the last 4 races. So again, this is proving like, Larson is fast, but it doesn't always equate to awesome finishes. He's got 2 top 5s and 2 outside top 30s at this track in the last 4 years or 4 races for him. So that's where I'm going with this. Plus 115. Anything can happen. This is really playing off of what Larson does as opposed to Byron being good. Because if Larson's leading, 180 laps, it's going to be tough to win this matchup. But the plus money value here, is what draws our attention. And we talked about it last week and it hit. So we're going to run it back.
Plus money, especially for a driver like William Byron, I feel like is always worth it. I'll do a quick story. I was so high on Kyle Larson coming into this race last year because of how strong he is in running the high line. Put a lot of units on him in terms of, I guess, my own unit allocation, and then he hit the sand barrels. So, I mean, that, it's just like if Kyle Larson, if something like that is going to happen, that is what's going to cause Kyle Larson to get out, or it's going to be a flat tire, or it's going to be him hitting the wall on his own power. I just feel like we always have to be aware of these things. Like Phil said, he's not a world beater. Ryan, take us away here. Your best value. I think you mentioned it. It was at MTJ. Are you sticking with that? Any others in this one?
Another thing I noticed, just going over some stuff here, is I kind of like where Austin Hill's at for a lot of the Xfinity markets. Anytime you can dumb Justin Allgaier down, which if there's any track that can do it, it's this one. In my pre-practice and qualifying ranks, he's going to rank highly just because the car's been so fast everywhere that would be anything similar to Homestead. But as soon as he gets to Homestead, he sucks. So, I mean, this is by far his worst track like this, and it's not even close. So anytime you can take him out of the equation, and perhaps that's the same with some of the junior motorsports guys, if their setups are just going to come in and be kind of lame. We already talked about an RCR driver that we love in the Cup Series. So maybe RCR is going to have something under their sleeve here. And Austin Hill's good here anyways. But I think you're looking at like top Chevy, he's like plus 850. You might be able to find him better out there. And anytime you can take the best Chevy out of the equation, I love it. I know Dinger is great here too, but what are you saying? It's like a head-to-head for plus 850. I just think the numbers aren't bad. Or take Dinger and him, or whatever you want to do. I didn't even look to see what Dinger was, but Austin Hill really jumped off the page to me. Oh, hold on, I have it up here. Dinger's plus 380. He's behind Sam Mayer as the favorite in Chevys. I don't know. That Austin Hill 850 is really sticking out to me. So I might put something on that.
All right. Hey, good to know. Love the Xfinity action as well. Phil will bring it home with the trucks when he does record the pod with Derek, like he mentioned. So be sure to tune into that. And that's going to close us out. I do want to click on one quick thing. That's Brian also saying Byron, Reddick, Blaney, all plus 130 or longer dogs to Larson again at Superbook. Well worth the dart. Completely agree there as well. So appreciate everyone in the chat, like Brian, who commented all show long. It was a great one. Excited for Homestead-Miami. Mike, appreciate you coming on the show. It was awesome having you, and talk a little bit about where everyone can find you, like you mentioned in the opening of the show as we close things out, and hopefully people, follow along, tune in to what you got going on, as I know I will be the remainder of the season.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on, and thank you to your listeners for putting up with me for an hour. I hope it was helpful. I hope I gave you some good advice, and if it was and you liked it, give me a follow I'm on Instagram at Left Turn Betting. I usually post a video a week, just kind of looking at my top 3 drivers. I'm going to be looking forward to doing a lot more type of content next year. This was really a big learning experience for me for how to put that content out. And yeah, I appreciate any feedback, any kind of engagement that people give. And I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. Yeah. Hell yeah, brother. Love to have you on next season. You'll keep coming back on, hopefully. Sure. And yeah. Good to have you here. Win the race. Debbie Downer, no. He was Debbie Upper. Let's go. Ryan, talk about win the race. Talk about how positive the vibes are going to be over there for Homestead-Miami once again this weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. We'll have content for all 3 series. I love the schedule when they practice and qualify before race day for the other series. It should be good. I did notice too, I did want to mention this earlier. I heard, because someone mentioned it in Discord, that they were worried about when the practice and qualifying were going to be for Cup at like 9 a.m. compared to the race time. But when I looked at like the weather, it was the same exact temperature for both and pretty overcast for both. So I don't know. I just want to mention that. I wouldn't really worry about that. But we'll have content all weekend. Wintherace.info. Check it out. Discord's fun. We're still in there. We're not stopping until after Phoenix. So it's been a long year, but it's been fun. And yeah, I'm ready to get after it. So hopefully we'll see you guys in there. It's half off your first week or month if you still want to check it out for a weekend or anything. So $10. Hop in.
Love it. Love it. Big Ross also saying, love when all 3 series run. Definitely agree there. And we'll be having that for the remainder of this season. All right, Phil, when will the truck pod be out? When can we tune into that for you?
Yeah, we're recording right after this. And hopefully, so Derek's flying to the track. Hopefully he can get this out before he leaves. So hopefully you'll see it tomorrow. But yeah, appreciate all you guys, Tino, Ryan, as always, and Mike for jumping on tonight. This has been really fun. Great track to break down. The chat's been fired tonight. Really fun conversations. And man, 3 races left. I mean, we've been throwing some degenerate picks out there, right? For all 3 series. If you're out there and you're like, oh, that's crazy, why would I take that? Just think about, Tuesday, Wednesday night in December when you're like, damn, I wish I could bet on some racing. Just let some go, keep it conservative, but still let's have some fun with all 3 series in flight this weekend. This is great. So let's take advantage of it and let's win some money heading down the stretch here, boys.
Let's go. 3 races remain, 3 NASCAR betting preview shows left in this one. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. Chat, like Phil said, was awesome. Appreciate everyone there. You can follow me on social media at Tino P-A-T-T. Miami Mike chiming in. This is his track as well. Follow me at Tino P-A-T-T-I-G-N-O on social media. Hear me on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Tomorrow morning, I'll be on giving out my best bets. So appreciate all you guys. We'll see you next week for the NASCAR betting preview show.